Hi. I'm going to pick up our discussion of the worlds of rebirth by discussing the first of the 6 worlds we talked about, the pleasure beings. Remember the sequence there: pleasure beings, jealous gods, humans, animal, hungry ghosts, and then hell beings. I typed another version of this, but technically it didn't come out, so I'm redoing it, so I'm a little more practiced there. And I'll alert you if we hear a meditation bell go off. That's my timer telling us we have used up our 15 minutes for YouTube. Alright, first of all, one thing that I want to discuss again is, in the West with our beliefs, how do we know that these things are true? How do we know there's 6 worlds of rebirth and so on? Of course, one level we could take it at, which is fine in a certain way, is that these worlds of rebirth are metaphorical. Metaphors for different states of mind, and that applies. That's valid per se, and I discussed that in our first video on the dynamics, the kitchen sink dynamics. However, going a little deeper, how do we know these things are true? Well, first of all, I'll tell you that I have no memory of prior rebirths personally. I don't remember being in the womb. I don't remember being 1 year old. I think my first memory goes back to like age 5. So, some people claim they remember the womb. Of course, some people claim other things. So, what's the evidence? Well, first of all, I think in Buddhism, the first and foremost evidence is that the Buddha, upon his enlightenment, spoke of his prior births. So on the basis of the authority of the Buddha, trust in the Buddha, not that it's dogma or, the Buddhist Pope will excommunicate you or anything, but unreasonable trust of he was right about so many things. He's right about so many things. He's called the correct teacher. That we go ahead and trust what the Buddha said and trust that, yes, there are worlds of rebirth, even though it's deeply hidden into us, and maybe, when we're Buddhas ourselves, we'll remember. Okay, that puts it off to the future. It kind of sounds like faith and dogma in some ways, but there it is. Another issue is there are lamas that remember previous lives. We have the tradition of the tulku in Tibetan Buddhism that says that, great teachers that reincarnate, or are reborn rather, to continue a line. The Dalai Lama himself is the 14th in a series, and the current Karmapa is the 17th in a series. I think Karmapa was the first one to be reborn like that. That's a Tibetan institution. It certainly involves, political advantages to the monk class. It certainly did in Tibet, especially under a feudal system. But there were some pretty impressive things like, the predecessor leaving in letters that forecast traits or characteristics of the place to be born, dreams that other people had. And finally, when they tested the tulku, they may show him 3 rosaries and say, which one is yours, and 3 cups, and which one is yours. And the child then usually picks, most of the time, the correct items. So that's another way to say that, yeah, this is true in some level. There are also teachers that are said to be able to communicate with those who passed on, and those in the various worlds of rebirth. Sogyal Rinpoche said he believed Dilgo Khyentse was able to do that, and also I was told by Tarzan Tulku that his teacher was able to do that. So there you go. There's another piece of information that we might put our trust in. In the modern world, in our world now, we have cases of people who've been hypnotically induced and have produced previous lives. These can be confabulated, like the famous case of Bridie Murphy turned out to be imaginary, and the evidence was not found. But there are others that do remember. There's a book, I think there's more than one book, but a book by Ian Stevenson from the 50s, I believe, called 20 Cases Suggestive of Reincarnation. And he takes 20 cases and he studied them, researched them, interviewed the people, and it's pretty impressive, some of the stuff that comes out of there. Also, Sojo Rinpoche's book, the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, has a story of a British, I believe a British man who remembered being living at Roman times and described a certain city that was being excavated. He was flown there, was able to indicate where to dig, and things were found that he said would be found. He knew the purpose of the changing of the guards, a certain room that the archaeologists were trying to figure out what the purpose was. So again, it's impressive stuff. You could explain it by other ways, you know, like psychically picking up waves, or these so-called Akashic records, or you know, things like that, collected memory. So of course it's all evidence, but you know, we're going to take the position that this does happen at some level, whatever it means. So to go to the pleasure being world, basically it's you know, extremely pleasurable. Their age, they live for thousands of years, thousands of human years in relation to us. However, it's not a heaven. It's not like the Christian heaven or the Muslim heaven where you die and then you go to this eternal place, whether you're with virgins, as the Muslims like to think so much. Some, I guess, not all, I'm sure. Or in the Christian heaven where it's kind of not clear whether, you know, you play baseball all day or you contemplate the nature of God or whatever. But basically, very tiny, short human life, eternal heaven. Disproportionate, of course, in all ways. But it's not like that. And the heavenly world, of course, we all accumulate negative and positive karma. It's like we have two bank accounts. One is debts and one is, you know, savings. So there isn't just one karma. And, you know, upon death, if the karma that propels the person to the next rebirth is primarily positive, even though there may be remainders of negativity, they could be born in a heaven world. However, or in a pleasure being world. However, they will die from there. And then depending on the remainder, they may be born in the human world, the animal world. Depends. And then from that animal world or human world or whatever, they may again accrue lots of positive karma and so on. But you know, you're kind of like a cosmic ping pong ball at the mercy of these cause and effect. So either way, you don't have control. I mean, either way, you're caught in a what we call samsara, which is going around and around, or we might call it the rat race. If you can visualize a rat in one of those wheels that hamsters run in, that's the kind of rat race it is. So our goal, our aim is really to transcend karma and transcend suffering, even though this world doesn't disappear, or pain and pleasure don't disappear, but suffering, the grasping onto self and other, the fight against what's coming up drops, and suffering disappears. So that's the goal. And then, of course, after death, the so-called parinirvana, after the body is disconnected from the mind, so to speak, Buddhahood. And of course, these terms, you know, it's difficult to say what these worlds are, where they are, what the disconnection from consciousness and the body means, what the connection means. And the mind basically has no location. So all these things we have to leave loose. We don't have time. It would take us an encyclopedic amount of information to cover, and I don't have the answers, so a lot of I can just parrot to you what my teachers have told me and what I've read, and hope that I'm reproducing it accurately, like a little tape recorder. Of course, you know, I do speak from personal insight as well, or I'd be lying to you, and that's not something I'll be willing to do. Again, the world, you know, the pleasure beings, they're all beautiful. They play beautiful music, and now then, when they age, they are said to begin to develop a foul smell and become all looking and ugly looking all of a sudden. And the other gods, the other pleasure beings, shun them. This is not that different from, you know, life in America. I mean, people that get certain diseases. I mean, we saw what happened with AIDS. often are shunned and put away somewhere. In that sense, I believe that hospice plays a great compassionate role in our society, and I can just hope that that institution continues to grow and become more effective. It already is quite effective. And particularly, I feel when you help people die at home, in which case they can die by their beliefs in an environment that's peaceful and having their beliefs respected, versus hospital, which is great if you need treatment, but you know, you're constantly being poked, woken up at different hours, and so on. So anyway, that's a little thing to interject there. But we always have the pleasure beings, you know, the old, and they say that the other gods, if they care about that being from the distance, throw flowers at the being. And that, I think, would be little consolation. But in a way, it's like the empty gesture sometimes we make in this human world. So it's just kind of poignant, I think. And then, of course, the Deva, the pleasure being, dies. And they go through the same stages as everyone goes. You know, the dissolutions, the clear light, then the Dharmata, the Bardo of Dharmata, and the Bardo of becoming. I've covered that in another section. I got I think a 6-part lecture. It's in the website clearlightvideos.net. Clearlightvideos.net. It's just too long for the average, for sure. YouTube viewer, they usually watch. I've noticed people watch like part 1, and they usually don't even go to part 2. That's why I've been trying to. The more I do this, the more I try to limit it to only one session. So it's very helpful that YouTube has given us an extra 5 minutes, and a lot can be done with that 5 minutes. An extra, you know, 33.333% more time. So in any case, that's kind of like the deal with the pleasure beings. In the next talk, I'll talk about the jealous gods, the Titans. Oh, and I'll mention one thing. You know, obviously, original Buddhism had quite a medieval view of the world. Not everyone believes that now. It came from the Abhidharma Kosha from India, and the belief was that the world was set in a disk. They said a diamond-hard disk of space. It's like space rotating so fast. They said that it becomes diamond-hard. And then from there's a mound, which is Mount Meru. And I think 7 concentric circles of mountains of gold, and then 4 continents. Kind of think of a pie and divide it into 4. Let's see, yeah, like that. But anyway, and ours was the southernmost continent, Jambudvipa, I believe it's pronounced. The sky is blue, and in the other continents, the sky is different colors. It's supposed to be. And, you know, it's interesting that even to this day, in India, there are lamas that believe the sky in America must be yellow, because we're in the west of them. There was one lama that believed that until he came to America, and then, of course, he accepted. I think credit to him for that. He didn't have a heart attack and die. He accepted the sky was blue everywhere. Also, the 17th Karmapa had a story that kind of surprised me when he was a kid, and this is just within the last 15, 20 years. When he was a child, Lama, already a Karmapa, he was told the world lay on a flat surface and there was a giant turtle in the bottom, and he was supposed to talk to this giant turtle to stop these earthquakes that were happening in Tibet. But that's how medieval these beliefs are. But, you know, believe me, the Dalai Lama is not stupid. He knows science very well, and of course most of us realize, you know, we're up to 20th century science, and he himself has said if science conflicts with, you know, something taught in the Dharma, well, science has a priority, so to speak. And of course science can never really speak to the root nature of mind, because science deals with sensory phenomena, and that root nature is the source of phenomena, the source of science. Well, with that, I think I'll leave you and we'll go to the next one. And with that, Tashida Lek.